Today we will discuss about the business environment and how business environment is useful. Learning objectives for this business environment is fundamentals of business environment. Then we will discuss about the business environment at large, types of business environment, then importance of business environment, environmental appraisal, industry appraisal, resource and capability analysis. Business environment is the sum total of all individuals or groups, institutions and other forces that are outside the control of a business, organization or enterprise, but affect the overall performance and sustainability of business. So, business environment or business organizations are interdependent on all these factors. A business in organizations makes its plans. As discussed in the previous section, we discussed about the planning, how managers plan their strategies, plan their actions. So, the strategies are being planned, strategies or goals are decided based on assessment of business environment. Every time manager plans, they need to take into account all the stakeholders whose and the needs and interests, their needs and interests. So, organizations operate in a pluralistic society. So, what is a pluralistic society? We will first discuss that an organization cannot operate in silos. They are interdependent on several factors. Within the organization, there is an interdependence. If we recall, we discussed about open systems approach. In the open systems theory, an organization takes input from external environment, processes it in through various procedures and various management functions within the organization, and it transforms the raw materials into finished products, and the products and services which are outcome of the various processes which is meant for use by external environment, the stakeholders in external environment, be it customers or the consumers. So, there is an interdependence of all these factors in the organization, and also there is there are various stakeholders who also have an interest with the organization. So, that means organization operates in a pluralistic society and addresses the needs of multiple stakeholders, needs and interest of multiple stakeholders. Many groups exert influence on the business, and it is important for organizations to be aware of all these groups, the multiple groups, multiple stakeholders and their interests and needs. Awareness of the actions and strategies of different groups is very important. Business environment enables firms to analyze the strategies and actions of the interest groups or the stakeholder groups. So, based on assessment of multiple stakeholders' interest, an organization can plan, or the managers can plan their actions accordingly. So, let us have a holistic overview of business environment. Business environment has two major components: internal environment and external environment. External environment consists of a general environment and task or specific environment. Then we will discuss about each of them in more details. Internal environment consists of employees, organizational culture and the management. The task or specific environment consists of competitors, suppliers, labor market and customers. Then general environment, which consists of technological environment, socio-cultural factors, economic forces, legal and political environment and international factors or So, internal environment, it consists of conditions and forces within the organization. What are the prevailing conditions or the culture of an organization, the forces within the organization, the basis of power and politics within the organization, which may influence the plans or decisions of an organization or the decisions of managers. The internal environment is composed of owners or proprietors, people who have legal property rights of the business, the owners of the business. Board of directors are governing body who are elected by shareholders and who oversee the firm's general management. They just take care of the management or the general administration of an organization. Then it also consists of employees. Employees are otherwise also called internal customers or internal stakeholders. Physical work environment, the environment in which the employees and stakeholders or owners work, locations of organizations, nature of work and health and safety measures. Corporate culture, organization's culture which consists of the shared values, beliefs and customs, rituals, attitude that guide overall the behavior of employees. It helps, the culture helps members understand what does an organization stand for and how does it do things and what it considers to be important. For example, Apple has a culture of flexibility, innovation. So, the people in general understand that Apple gives importance to the general environment, or the corporate culture of Apple gives importance on openness, innovation, sharing of information, information sharing or knowledge sharing, creativity and innovation. If an organization is highly bureaucratic, bureaucratic in the sense there is a top down approach with authority in the top management or the centralization, or there is high formalization or rules and regulations are rigidly followed, rules and regulations are strictly followed. In such an organization, people generally, the employees have a belief that they are supposed to be, they are bound by those rules and regulations which are stringent. So, that guides the behavior of people. So, there is a standardization in the approach, standardization in the processes. Internal environment defines how well the organization will adapt to external environment. So, this is internal environment will define how the organization will adapt to the external environment and the changes in the external environment. Now, let us discuss about external environment. What is an external environment? What are the major constituents of external environment? External environment is something which is outside the organization's boundary, something which is beyond organization's control. Examples of the constituents or elements of external environment: suppliers, competitors, consumer groups, media, government, customers, economic conditions, market conditions, investors and technology and so on. So, these forces which are dominant or elements of external environment have an influence on the business. For example, changes in tax or reforms in tax policies, changes in tax policies can have an influence on the business organizations. Customers buy less, here the business would have to re-establish its prices to survive the change or to sustain the change. Even though the business had no involvement in initiating the change, it still has to adapt in order to survive or make profits. There are two layers of external environment or two factors or two elements of external environment. One is general environment, another one is task or specific environment. General environment consists of technological, socio-cultural, economic and legal political dimensions. Task and specific environment consist of competitors, suppliers and customers. So, general environment influence organizations on organizations over time, but often are not involved in day to day transactions. The dimensions of general environment is technological factors, social factors, economic, legal and political factors. Technological dimensions include scientific and technological advancements. For example, with latest trends in technology or adaptation of new technology, say for example, Boeing had to switch over from analog to digital technology. In a specific industry, any industry, there is a revolution which is caused by changes in technology or adoption of new technology, which will have an impact on how the business organizations run. Computer networks, internet access, handheld devices, video conferencing, cell phones, fax machines and laptops are the minimum tools of doing business. Earlier, say let us take an example, because of advent of video conferencing or information technology in business. So, there are changes in the recruitment policies. Earlier in the recruitment process, the prospective candidate had to appear in person to appear for an interview process, whereas today even interviews are conducted over video conferencing. Meetings are held over video conferencing, which has technology has made the lives of employees, lives of people, lives of stakeholders at ease. Technology has transformed, has been a game changer in the business world. Social dimensions represents the demographic characteristics. The demographic factors such as norms, customs and values of the general population, they have also influenced the business organizations, plans. Important socio-cultural characteristics are geographical distribution and population density, age and education level. Age and lifestyle factors, education level has also influenced business decisions. Economic dimensions represents the general economic health of the country or region in which organization operates. Consumers' purchasing power, the unemployment rate and interest rates are part of an organization's economic environment. Legal political dimensions include government regulations in the local, state and federal levels, as well as political activities designed to influence company behavior. For example, the government laws specify rules of the game. Many organizations, especially multinational enterprises, have to contend with government and legal issues in other countries. Managers must recognize a variety of pressure groups. So, therefore, if all these factors in the business environment have an influence on the decisions and plans of organizations, there must be an assessment of the pressure groups that work within a legal political framework to influence companies to behave in a socially responsive way. So, we will discuss about each of them in more details. Environmental factors influencing the planning process or the planning and strategic decision making. As we have seen, organization is responsive to various factors in the external environment. The factors in the external environment as discussed now is the political factor, economic factor, social factors, ecological, legal and technological factors. Let us take each one in more details. The political factors, government policies, ideology, political events or wars, civil unrest, political instability, terrorism, non-state groups, interest groups, trade unions and trade union policies have an influence on organization. Government policies. So, for example, government policy in India, there is a change in government policies towards employing more women. There is a reservation policy, 33% of women need to be given employment, or there should be a reservation for women. So, which has influenced in which has given a kind of mandatory clause for organization to hire more women in organizations. Geopolitical events, wars or some kind of geopolitical factors have an influence on the decisions of organizations. Civil unrest or terrorism, these have influenced organizations' decisions. Interest groups, the public pressure groups or interest groups has an influence on business organizations, which lead to changes in the, or they have to be more responsive to the changes in the, or to the pressures which have been laid by, have been of the interest groups. For example, McDonald, a US based organization, or when it has grown or expanded its operations in different countries. Let us take an example of India. When McDonald ventured in Indian market, so the products were rejected by, or there was a hue and cry by the public interest group, giving a reason that the product has beef in its content. So, as a result, the products were, there was mass rejection and McDonald had to change its decision to have a different type of product in Indian market. They removed the beef in the content in the product, and they had to be more adaptive to the Indian culture and the preferences and needs of people. So, economic, next factor we will discuss about economic factors, economic growth patterns, competitor behavior, behavior of competitors, suppliers, raw material prices, currency exchange rates, tax regimes and wage rates also influence the change in wage rates. The tax regimes influence the corporate decisions and the plans. Social factors, demographic trends, as we know that the people have different preferences and needs. Each age group has a different preference about the products and services. Lifestyle of people are changing. Lifestyle, people now are more conscious about the health. So, as a result, there is more awareness amongst the organizations to have products which are suiting or which are more suitable to the needs of the demographic trends and the lifestyle preferences of people. So, organization is taking care of the needs and preferences of each of the stakeholder group. Social values, attitude to work, discrimination trends, labor mobility and skill availability also influences availability of skills, availability of labor. It also influences decision making of organizations. Ecological factors, environmental, rising concern of environment, protecting environment. So, organizations, the actions of organizations are influenced by these concerns, reducing toxic emissions, pollutants, and regulations concerning use of certain techniques like genetic modification of food, hazard prevention, noise pollution. So, there is organization has to be more concerned towards the needs of ecology or to maintain an ecological balance, concern for planet, the soil, land and water and as well as air. So, the product should be free from any kind of pollutants which will not disturb the ecological balance. Legal factors, specific laws of the land, then international law, international trade agreements, human rights, local regulations, bylaws also influence the organization's decision making. Technological factors like computing power and cost, new products, the demand for new products, new facilities, innovations in products. Apple has been innovating new products much in advance, taking care of the or maybe they are concerned towards the needs of customers. So, they are planning about the new product in order to be more responsive to the changing preferences, changing demands of customers. Internet trading, new production methods, innovation in transports. So, these are the factors in changing technological factors which have influenced organizations and its decisions. Overall forces in business environment. If we look at the forces, one is hyper competition, disruptive and high velocity innovation, out of sector competition. There is intense competition within each environment. There is intense rivalry. Let us take an example of telecom sector. Earlier there was monopoly of BSNL, then came many new entrants after the changes of liberalization in trade policies. So, the advent of liberalization, globalization, there were many players in the market which led to increase in or rise in competition. And then as a result, to be more sustainable or to be more competitive, the organization has to respond, to adapt to the changes, to be more innovative in products and services. So, geopolitical pressures, interdependent global economy, global warming, climate change, all these factors have also resulted, have impacted, they have created a kind of force on the organization. Fashion trends. The next big thing is the changing fashion, changing preferences. People are, or the fad is also driving, is a kind of force which is driving the business organizations plans. So, these factors are leading organizations to adapt to change. In order to maintain their continuity, the organizations are more understanding or they are more sensitive to these forces in the business environment and they are moving ahead with new plans. Demographic factors, the generation Y, generation Z, all these they have a different desire, need and preference of the products. So, all these forces, demographic forces have also influenced the business environment. And then mandatory factors like legislation, social responsibility, so organizations responsiveness or responsibility towards the planet. So, they have to take care, they are more concerned in about all these environmental forces. process, product, service failures, government problems, governance problems, these are some environmental factors which have influenced overall the managerial decision making or the strategy formulation. CSR policies and practices, pollution control, product improvement, repair of environment, recycling of waste material, energy saving. These are some policies and practices which have come up as a result of the environmental forces. To be more responsive to the environmental forces, pollution control measures have been adopted, products have been improved. Say for example, the vehicles, the concept of hybrid car have come into now the companies are manufacturing hybrid cars which are fuel efficient as well as which are responsive to which have less carbon emission. Repair of environment, recycling waste materials. So, these are some policies which have been formulated by the organizations to be more responsive to or to be more to address to the needs of different stakeholders. Energy saving or energy efficiency, equal opportunities being given to various stakeholders. Minority employment, as we discussed earlier, 33% reservation or mandatory employment of women in all organizations. So, giving equal opportunity to both genders. Advancement of minorities, employment of minorities, taking care of the needs of weaker sections, advancement of women and support of minorities in the businesses, support of disadvantaged sections of society. So, which gives overall these policies of equal employment address to the needs of multiple stakeholders. Personnel factors, employee health and safety, training, personnel counseling, subcontractor code of behavior, providing medical care or insurance to the personnel. So, the internal stakeholders or people who are working in the organization, their needs need to be taken care of by providing health and safety, by giving them health and safety benefits. So, every organization takes care of providing medical facilities to the employees, medical benefits, insurance, health insurance to the employees, so that they are more engaged in employment, they are willing to work for the organization, there is a sense of belongingness developed. So, providing the necessary benefits to employees is one of the important policies, giving training to the employees so that it will take care of the career advancement opportunities. Personal counseling, counseling to the employees by the mentors or coaches, which will help address, provide them psychological safety and take care of the professional advancement. Subcontractor code of behavior, providing medical care or insurance. So, basically these are personal policies or the strategies which are practices which have been designed by the managers as well as the organization at large. Community involvement, charitable donations, organization also provides donations, promotes public health initiatives and supports education and the art, community involvement in projects. Infosys is a global company which takes care of providing large amount of fund to address to the needs of community development, like it helps in improvement of or providing infrastructure to the government schools in Karnataka. It helps in developing library resources as well as provides computers to those government schools which were otherwise deprived of such kind of infrastructure. Ensuring safety in the products, quality of products, sustainability, percentage of materials that can be recycled. So, the products which are released, the products which are meant for consumption need to be safe and they are also of good quality and there is which is free from any kind of say the product is fit for use. Suppliers, fair terms of trade, blacklisting, unethical, irresponsible suppliers and subcontractor code. So, the task or specific, now let us discuss about what are the constituents or elements of the specific environment. Specific environment includes those sets of factors that have a direct working relationship with the organization. For example, Customers, competitors and suppliers, they directly influence the business organizations. They are the constituents of the task environment or specific environment. Customers are people defined as people and organizations who acquire goods or services from the organizations. Patients are the customers of hospitals, students are customers of schools, travelers the customers of airlines. So, there are different types of customers for different organizations. Competitors are other organizations in the same industry which are operating in the same industry or the type of business that provide goods or services to the same sets of customers. Competitors are overall, they are other organizations which are operating in the industry or the type of business which have a same sets of customer base and who offer the similar goods and services to those sets of customers. Coca-Cola and Pepsi are competitors in the soft drink market. Blue Dart and FedEx are examples of competitors in courier industry. Suppliers provide raw materials to the organizations uses to produce its output. Examples of suppliers: a steel mill requires iron ore, machines and financial resources that are provided by suppliers. For hospitals, pharmaceutical companies are suppliers. For a steel industry or say for example, steel and aluminum industry are major suppliers for aircraft manufacturing, shipbuilding and so on. So, many competitors are using fewer suppliers and trying to build good relationship with them so that they will receive high quality parts and materials at lower prices. So, the relationship between manufacturers and suppliers is important because to save money, maintaining quality and spreading products to market. So, a supplier customer relationship or supplier organization relationship or manufacturer supplier relationship is very important in order to get the right amount of resources to maintain quality, speeding products to the market or delivering products at the right time to the market and to save money on large. So, with this we conclude this lecture and we try to, and overall discussion will be I will wind up by saying that the business environment is important and relevant to identify the business opportunities. It helps to tap useful resources, cope with the changes or adapt to the changes, assist in planning. Basically, business environment assessment is important to assist managers to plan, help in improving overall performance of organization. The plans are in response to, the plans would address to the needs of each of the stakeholder group to be more flexible in managing or to develop the plans, adopt flexible style of management to facilitate quick decision making process with changing taste preferences of customers. Overall, what we discuss here, what we have discussed is assessment of business environment, the task environment or the specific environment, internal environment and overall general environment is very important as it helps in identifying business opportunities and to get the right amount of resources or to have quality resources for the organization and to cope with the changes, adapt and to be more flexible in planning as per the changes in the business environment, and it helps in improving overall performance of organizations.